Hello, and welcome to Back Through the Lens, where two film school friends talk about movies through the haze of nostalgia. The good, the bad, and the ones that aren't quite how we remember them. I'm your host, Rachel, and with me is my co-host, Joe. Today's movie is Return to Oz.
It's the summer solstice in 1985. Bryan Adams' song Heaven is the #1 song in the US. Kids are on summer break and watching Smurfs and He-Man on TV, or playing Asteroids and Space Invaders at the arcade. At the theaters, Cocoon is the #1 movie on its opening weekend. In this season, we celebrate films that turned 40 in 2025, the same year we also hit that milestone.
I don't know what to say about this viewing experience.
It was wonderful.
It was something.
Yeah. Yes, it was something. I feel like it's both weirder than I remember, but also not as weird as I remember. I don't know how that makes sense.
I don't know how it could be not as weird as you were. Like, it's funny because I was sure I had never seen this before, but then as I watched the movie, little things seemed familiar.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I saw it once.
Yeah.
And blocked that memory out, but
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so, yeah.
That's funny. I'm having the opposite problem. I know I watched it before, maybe once, and there was a lot. Like I don't remember any of this, and like certain, I don't want to say scenes, like a whole thing playing out, but like scenery or shots. I mean, I definitely remember TikTok and Jack. I do not remember the Gump. I don't know. I feel like, and I'll probably mention it like 3 times during this episode, but there's a lot of it that reminds me of Neverending Story, as far as like aesthetics, where in certain spots it's bright and kind of very washed over and happy looking, and then you get the really dark, scary weirdness when they're escaping the castle or whatnot.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. I watched Neverending Story all the time when I was younger, and it's been so long that I don't remember much of it now.
Yes, same. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember little bits and like I remember characters. I will say for Return to Oz, I would always see the still of Dorothy holding the pumpkin, or like I guess it's Jack's head when it falls off at that one point, and she looks very distressed, and it's like a totally black background. So whenever I would hear about this movie or, see it on weird movie lists or whatever, that was a still they would use a lot. And I just always assumed this was a Halloween movie, I guess. I never really understood what it was. And I was like, well, I'm probably never going to watch that anyway, so whatever. And I just like in my head, I kept associating it as a Halloween movie because literally I would always see the picture of her holding the jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah, that checks out.
And I didn't know it was a character's head.
Which also works for a Halloween movie.
There's too much to say, and we're just gonna run into all of our notes, so let's just
dive right in.
Yeah, let's just dive right in. Today's movie is Return to Oz, directed by Walter Murch, released June 21st, 1985, rated PG. Based on The Marvelous Land of Oz and Ozma of Oz by L. Frank Baum.
6 months after her adventures in the Land of Oz, Dorothy is having a hard time disconnecting herself from that world. Dorothy's aunt and uncle believe she's having a mental breakdown and take her to electric shock doctor. With the help of another inmate, Dorothy escapes during a big storm via a raging river and wakes up back in Oz, where everything is not what it once was. With the help of her now talking chicken Bellina and her new friends TikTok, Jack, and the Gump, Dorothy is on a new adventure to find out what happened to Oz and her old friends.
So like I said, I was convinced I had never seen this before, but then as I was watching it, I could have sworn I had seen certain scenes before, so I really just don't know. If I had seen it before, there was obviously, like, I had forgotten 99% of it, so.
That's fair. Did you forget or repress? I don't know.
Right? And that's the thing, too. It was like, after I watched this whole thing, I was like, maybe I just blocked that from memory.
I don't remember. I know I was little, And I mean, if you call back from, was it episode 1? God, was it that long ago?
Yeah, yeah.
Episode 1, where we did repeat viewing, I watched the classic Wizard of Oz way too many times. I don't think my parents even knew this movie existed, even though it came out the year we were born. Mm-hmm. We might have stumbled across it when I was a little kid at a video rental store or something, and all I can really remember is vaguely wanting to like it because it was part of the story that I liked as a kid, but then also thinking, like, this isn't what I anticipated. Not the crazy weirdness that's happening around everywhere. Like, we'll talk about all that, but I specifically remember, like, these guys are generic versions of the friends I liked. Like, TikTok is just generic Tin Man. Jack is the Scarecrow. And I just remember being a kid not understanding what happened to everybody else. And the movie explains that, but when you're 5 and you want to see your old friends and they don't exist, you get kind of mad and check out.
Yeah.
And then years later, I was crashing on someone's couch. I was in college. It was like a bad storm and I didn't want to drive home through it. And I woke up and I saw some DVD collection on the end table, and they had a DVD of this movie, and I almost put it in. I was like, I probably shouldn't, like, wake up the house because I want to watch something from my childhood that probably no one else gives a shit about.
That's funny.
And that's my last memory of that movie, besides the watch for this.
Can't believe someone owned this on DVD.
I know, I'm kind of jealous.
We will get into that, too, because the release of this movie, both in theaters and on home video, has been very fraught. So Walt Disney had the rights to L. Frank Baum's remaining Oz books. I did not know until more recently that the Wizard of Oz books were a whole series. I knew that there was a book, The Wizard of Oz. I didn't know until maybe like a few years ago that there were more of them.
Oh, there's a bunch.
So Disney had the rights to the book specifically. The original movie, the one that we all know with Judy Garland from 1939, was made by MGM. Disney apparently was going to use the books in a TV series called Walt Disney's Disneyland. They also proposed a live-action film called The Rainbow Road to Oz. But none of this ever happened. It seems like they bought these rights and then were just so worried about being compared to the very famous movie that they never did anything with it because they didn't know like how it would be received. But it feels insane to me that they spent what I assume is a great deal of money to obtain the rights, and then they were just like, oh, it's not going to work out, and just sat on them.
It's one of those examples of just owning it so no one else can, I would assume.
Yeah, that's especially with this being Disney, I could see that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can understand, too, because this movie does not feel or look or have any of the same rewatchability as the original movie.
Yes.
And if they didn't have the rights and other people just started making a bunch of different Oz movies, they're going to think of the original one, and you're guilty by association. Like, all these Oz movies suck. Disney sucks at making them, even though Disney wasn't making them. They just didn't have the rights or gave away the rights. So I can kind of see both sides, where they didn't want to tarnish their own reputation by not living up to the original, but also didn't want anyone else to do that very same thing.
Okay.
And this is an assumption. I have no idea. I don't meet with Disney on the regular.
That's okay. So Walter Murch, who is our director and co-screenwriter, I was not familiar with him until doing research for this episode. This guy had an amazing career as an editor and a sound mixer and editor. So at this point in his career, he had worked almost exclusively with George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola. So he was the sound editor on THX 1138, American Graffiti, both with George Lucas. He did the sound for The Godfather 1 and 2, The Conversation, also a Coppola movie. He did sound and edited it. And also Apocalypse Now, edited the film and did sound. He was considered a really good friend and colleague to these two, and also Spielberg, apparently, because just why not throw him in there? Because every episode we must mention him.
It's under contract, yeah.
Right, yep. He had already won an Oscar for sound mixing for Apocalypse Now, but he had 3 other nominations under his belt across like sound and editing. Disney basically was having brainstorming meetings. I think at this point they had a strange lapse in their films. Everything I read was that the 80s were a weird time for Disney.
I kind of remember that during our episode of Disney animations from our childhood and looking at some research. It's called the Renaissance era, which also could have been called the Resurgence era, because they did have a big lapse. Not just like live action movies, but that was a bigger lapse. But even in successful, I'll say that, successful animated movies, and yeah, they were not doing so well for a hot minute.
There was something I read that they were apparently trying to go after a slightly older audience, and it just really didn't work. But the only one I really saw referenced was The Dark Crystal, which I'm not too familiar with. Like, I know what it is.
Sure.
But that being said, they're in a weird point in their movie making. And they start having these brainstorming meetings. They bring people in to see what ideas they have for directing or writing or whatever. Walter Murch somehow gets a meeting. His joke is that they got to the M's and brought him in. The production chief of Disney at the time was Tom Wilhite. He, based on what you're reading, maybe Tom was interested in doing something with the rights to the Oz films. Maybe Walter Murch was. What is known is that Walter Murch had this childhood connection to the Wizard of Oz books specifically. They were apparently a favorite of his mom's, who lived in Southeast Asia. She was the daughter of Canadian missionaries, and she would read the Wizard of Oz books and in her mind conflate Oz with her homeland of Canada, which she had been born in but did not remember at all because she was constantly traveling around with these missionary parents. So she was a big fan. Murch became a big fan. And he specifically wanted to always do something with the books, not necessarily remake the movie or do a sequel to the movie. I guess Tom Wilhite was like, well, we're about to lose the rights anyway, so we might as well do something with them. I don't know how they got over their fear of being compared to the original movie.
Yeah, that's interesting. The story about the mom and her associating Oz with her homeland of Canada, I cannot hear those words together and not think of the episode of South Park where they travel the only road in Canada, and it's obviously a Oz spoof.
Again, conflicting reports about whether Murch even realized Disney had the rights to the Oz books, or if he was just like, look, this is, if I was ever going to make something, this would be it. This is like my dream. Disney approved. They combined, I believe it's the second and third books in the series. Is that correct? So they combined The Marvelous Land of Oz and Ozma of Oz, the books that follow The Wizard of Oz. This was all in 1980 when they got this going. Please keep in mind that this movie was released in 1985. In September 1981, Disney's president, Ron W. Miller, announced that they would be making the film. Again, not as a sequel or anything related to the 1939 movie, but an entirely new story with a different look from the original film. And researching this was so funny to me because a lot of what I found were scanned newspaper articles. But are you thinking of the Madonna announcement?
I mean, yes, but also no. Like, it's just such a weird, like, they, like, Disney buried this, like, research for this movie.
But what was funny to me is they would have these articles announcing that they're going to make this movie. It's really what it was like. And sure, you have, I don't know, if you really follow Hollywood news or movie news, you have certain websites or news sources that follow that kind of stuff that might announce certain projects. But this was just like in the Daytona Sunday paper. It was just in people's like local newspapers.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and they would talk about the movie or interview Walter Murch, and they maybe hadn't even started filming yet. And it's just, I feel like that's not something I've come across before.
I can't imagine and slash don't remember like when newspapers were more a thing in the household, like going through the newspaper. Yes, as a kid, just going for the movie section, the movie times, and the comic books. Seeing an announcement of a movie being made. Like, that'd be so weird.
Yeah, I don't really have any memories of this either, but again, not like I really sat around reading the paper. It was a very interesting insight into how pop culture and celebrities were covered in the 1980s as well, because almost every article I looked up, you know, it was scanned, so it was the whole newspaper sheet. It wasn't just the original or just the individual article. And they would have things like wedding bells, this couple is getting married, or this couple swears their marriage is not on the rocks. And then, like, it's just weird to think of this in your local paper.
It's like before it split off and became tabloids and TMZ.
Yes, it was all very tabloid-y. Like, it felt like I was reading a tabloid, but it was my, like, Sunday paper.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was weird.
A simpler time.
I guess, I don't know.
You know, all your news, good, bad, or fake, in one Sunday paper.
Yep. One article I read, the article next to it was about Liza Minnelli swearing that her marriage is fine and solid. We all know how that worked out.
It was not.
It was not, yeah. So they really sent Walter Murch out to stress that this was not a sequel to The Wizard of Oz, the movie. He also kept explaining that it's not going to be a musical because it is not a direct sequel. It's just based on the books. And I feel like they were already getting ahead of themselves. Like, I can see their worry in terms of why they never did anything with these rights, because they're already doing all this publicity and all this press about, like, it's not a sequel, guys. Trust us. Also, they made Fairuza Balk available for interviews here and there, where she was very much repeating a company line. It was very obvious and silly.
At this point, though, the Wiz had come out in 78.
That's a good point.
So I feel like they're trying to distance themselves from the previous two films, which were just the same story, just told differently, but also both very much musicals.
Okay, yeah.
So maybe they're just like, hey, we got all these books that we have rights to. We should do something with the other 13 of them. Not singing and dancing, guys. We're just going to tell a story.
They brought in a producer named Gary Kurtz. He had previously produced the first two Star Wars movies and The Dark Crystal. He was also a personal friend of Walter Murch. I have a quote from him. "What we're doing is an action adventure. The fantasy world will be as realistic as possible. The creatures will be as believable as possible in their own right, and not just people in funny suits."
Okay. Believable is questionable, but
wait till you hear about all the people in the funny suits.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yep. Walter Murch was quoted in one of these early interviews saying that he had felt like the movies that had been coming out recently, either from Disney or for children in general, had villains that he felt could be reasoned with. Villainy had slipped into a gray area, is how he put it. He said to think about the Queen and Snow White. You can't reason with someone that wants a heart from a living person.
Yes.
Which, sure. So he wanted to bring back what he saw as like real scary villains who are just evil for the sake of being evil.
I can appreciate that.
He talked about apparently villains of the time having backstories, like they had a tough childhood and if they would just get some therapy, they'd be okay.
This is kind of my complaint about the Rob Zombie remake of Halloween.
I was just thinking about that as I was saying this.
Because, like, the first, I don't know, 30, 40 something minutes is just like him being as a kid. And, like, I don't care. Like, I don't want to sympathize with someone who murders people, first of all.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
Also, I just don't care. It's
just
scarier
like,
if I don't know.
Just let him be the bad guy. I know.
Yeah.
All right. So they saw around 1,000 young actors to try to find their Dorothy. Obviously, they eventually settled on Fairuza Balk. She was the second youngest girl to audition. I really couldn't find a lot, unfortunately, about why they chose her specifically. Just more so about Fairuza Balk and her mom moving from Vancouver so she could pursue acting. And she apparently cried when he chose her. Walter Murch had said it would have been blasphemy, that's the word he used, to cast someone with the same look and same age as Judy Garland, but Fairuza Balk was actually close to Dorothy's age in the books.
Which is what I thought watching the movie, because she's pretty tiny in the books.
Have you read the books?
Only the first one.
Oh, okay. Brian Henson, who we have discussed from The Muppet Christmas Carol, obviously the son of Jim Henson from The Muppets. He was the lead puppeteer, but also the voice of Jack Pumpkinhead.
Very nice.
A man named Michael Sundin, a British trampolining champion, also a presenter on a children's show called Blue Peter, which is a British children's show. Also found out it is the longest running kids show in the world.
Okay.
Just something to note. He played TikTok, who is, I think of him as like a robot, but that's not exactly correct. He's like a very short man made of metal.
It's like a big wind-up toy.
Yeah, there you go. But he's short. We'll say short and wide and waddles kind of when he walks.
Yes, because he is short and wide.
Right. Okay, this man, Michael Sundin, want to talk about, like, not just people in funny suits. He had to be strapped into the costume for TikTok with his head between his legs, bent double and facing backwards. A small monitor allowed him to see where he was going. There was limited air, so according to Walter Murch, once he was clamped inside TikTok, he had 2 minutes and 45 seconds before we had to say cut. Despite this, he was able to, quote, master this unbelievably complicated geometric reconstitution to the point that TikTok was able to walk up and down stairs.
That is insane.
There was really no other choice than to fold this man upside down backwards in this suit and nearly suffocate him every time he did a take.
I would be pissed as anyone else on set. I mean, concerned for this man who has less than 3 minutes to breathe. But, like, can you imagine doing this movie? Like, all right, and cut, and cut, and cut, and cut. Let him breathe, and cut. Okay, as you said, he's a short character. Was Warwick Davis busy? Like, you couldn't get someone of short stature, like, to play like R2-D2, or, you know, they've done it in the past. They have someone who is a short actor.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Why fold the man in half and not let him breathe?
I know.
That being said, I'm very impressed that he was able to not only walk, but climb up and down steps.
Yes, because there is that one point where he and Jack Pumpkinhead are going up a flight of stairs. I was trying to look back and think about how much screen time TikTok has at once, like, after reading this, and I don't know. I just, like, really, this was your only option? This was the best option?
Also, I don't know how the trampolining champion has anything to do with being bent in half. I don't know. I feel like that's like a... Are those related? I don't know.
I feel like at first I was like, oh, that makes sense. And then I was actually thinking of a contortionist.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know, but apparently he was fit and limber. I don't know.
Clearly.
So, yep, that's where we are. And it's gonna get worse. Also, Fairuza Balk, because of how all this was set up. She was, she was a child actor, obviously. This was her first feature film. She had only done TV, like I think 2 TV movies were on her
wow.
IMDb before this. And, I'm sure she did stuff like commercials or whatever. So she was basically acting with puppets or people encased in costumes. And she was very rarely doing a scene with another human being.
Take that, Michael Caine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you think about it, it's probably the stuff in Kansas where she's really acting with other regular actors.
Yeah.
Okay. So, our movie was supposed to film in Algiers, Sardinia, Spain, Canada, Kansas, and England.
Why?
Yeah, who knows? Budgets were a big concern. We'll get into it in just a second, but also filming ran entirely too long. So they basically were like, go to this studio in the UK, and that's what you get. The scenes for Kansas were filmed in Salisbury Plain, which is kind of close to Stonehenge. I looked it up. They were talking about it being convenient because it's close to London, and it's not really like that close to London.
Things are different over there.
I don't know.
Everything's shrunken down. It's probably as close as you're going to get versus like Cleveland to Texas,
Sure.
Quick comment on the filming taking too long.
Yes.
Maybe if you didn't stuff a man into a tin costume and he can only do 2 minutes and 45 seconds a take, things would move a little faster.
Oh, we will get to all this.
Yeah. Let's put that man in a tin suit and put him in somewhere hot like Spain. Yeah, that sounds great.
I know. I am genuinely curious to know like what they were going to film in what areas. I'm sure there's like mountains and stuff in some of this movie. I'm sure some of it was for different types of landscape, but
yeah,
very curious.
We're going to take a child, a folded up man, a puppet, and another puppet to these real locations? Like, it's crazy to me.
Well, and the other issue, too, is that Fairuza Balk could only work about 3.5 hours a day. And she's in most of the movie.
I mean, she is Dorothy, yes.
Yeah, so that slowed things as well. But, like, in a way that I feel like they probably should have been prepared for because she's a child. But I was a little confused because I feel like we've talked about so many child actors at this point on the podcast where they didn't really seem to have these strict schedules, or maybe they had like a somewhat strict schedule but not quite like this, but there were still like some lax safety.
Yeah,
like we talked about Home Alone and like Gremlins, things didn't always sound safe. Apparently in the UK the child labor laws were much tighter.
I was just going to say that. I said, well, the difference is where they shot.
Yes. Yep. That is the difference. Okay. So as we said, it fell behind schedule actually pretty quickly.
Can't imagine why.
Well, here's the thing. 5 weeks into production, they had only filmed the scenes in Kansas, or that take place in Kansas. So you really can't blame the TikTok thing for that.
Not yet, no.
No, but you can blame the child actor. I understand that. Walter Murch said that some of this was because of his inexperience as a director, but not only was it his very first time directing, it was a really challenging film because you had puppets and visual effects and a small child who could only work so many hours a day. And again, I feel like all of this makes sense, but maybe like make your first foray into directing less complicated.
I feel like in that world, you get what you get. Like someone offers you to direct for the first time after having a great career thus far. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to pass because I feel like that opportunity might not come again.
Right. Okay. Yes.
So,
I agree with that.
I get it, but yeah, it's them's the breaks.
Yep. So basically 5 weeks in, just Kansas stuff has been filmed. The original cameraman quit because he was unhappy working with Murch. And then poor Walter Murch was fired. Disney had changed production heads. So the guy who originally greenlit this with Murch was no longer in charge. New guy came along. First of all, was like, what is this silly idea? also looked at this filming that was taking too long. They were already going over budget. So the story that I read basically was that someone from Disney had come to set and they could tell that Walter Murch was in over his head. He looked white and shaky and very terrified, and something about he was so stuck in his own head he would forget to call cut. So all of this together, they were like, just, we're done here. And they were going to bring in someone else.
I hope he didn't forget to call cut during TikTok scenes.
We had only filmed the stuff in Kansas at this point.
Oh, so that was specific. That's when he got fired.
Yes.
Okay,
we're only 5 weeks in, and only the Kansas stuff had been filmed. So you can't even blame, like, some of the more extravagant,
okay,
I
was just really concerned for that man.
I know. He's back in England somewhere just waiting to be let out. I know.
He's got bad... I'm sure he's had, like, back problems for years after that.
Probably. I should have looked into him more and seen how he felt about all this.
Right, yeah. Anyway.
Okay, so Walter Murch said at that time, because he was very overwhelmed, his quote, "I felt what the soul feels after it's left the body after a car accident. Pain, but tremendous relief."
Dear Lord.
I know.
Wow.
Oh no. But he has friends in high places. So when George Lucas heard that he had been fired, apparently he called up Disney and was immediately like, "You're making a mistake." And then he got on a plane to London and, according to Walter Murch, used some kind of Jedi mind trick to convince them to rehire me. George Lucas also guaranteed that he would step in as a replacement if any further problems emerged from the rest of the shoot.
Okay.
There were also some little bits about maybe Francis Ford Coppola and Steven Spielberg throwing their weight behind Walter Murch as well. But the only stories specifically that I found were from George Lucas. But the condition under which he was brought back was he had to stick to a budget of $25 million, could not go any over. Gary Kurtz, his friend who was acting as a producer, was removed. There were concerns, I guess, that he was not being realistic enough about what they were really capable of doing, both budget-wise and time-wise. And I guess the way they explained it was that sometimes the producer needs to bring the director back down to earth. And in this case, the producer was the one kind of with his head in the clouds.
Okay.
And not really worrying about budget and schedule.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a dangerous combination with a first-time director.
Mm-hmm. However, because of, I don't know, Hollywood, instead of firing him, they promoted him to executive producer, which was a way to get him out of an active producer role without hurting his feelings in case they had to work with him later.
Okay.
And to be fair,
sure.
He also produced Star Wars, so they probably were like, he might be around for a while.
Okay. Yeah. I guess they don't want to make him mad and he goes to another studio and produces the next Star Wars.
Sure.
I mean, it's all about relations and shit like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I read an article where Fairuza Balk said they were on their 50th week of production.
One whole year.
Right. So I could not find specific dates about like when filming began and ended, but 50th week of production. So.
All right.
It's all those TikTok scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. Disney also had to pay a large fee to MGM so that they could use the ruby slippers. For people who aren't aware, I at least knew this part. In the book, they're silver slippers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I guess the ruby slippers were the one thing that Disney felt they needed to keep in. Murch felt this was risky because it obviously was a direct link to the movie, that they have all gone to great pains to say this is not a direct sequel to that movie, but they just felt like the expectations for the slippers in particular would be like too high. The characters of the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion are all based on illustrations in the book, not how they were looking in the movie, which is very obvious.
Very obvious. Yeah. I definitely think they look pretty close to what they looked like in the book. More so, like, the Tin Man's like spot on. The lion is a lion, so that's fine.
Yeah. I really didn't like how the Scarecrow looked with his like big eyes, and I feel like
he was
maybe a little
odd.
bad about it now that it was based on the original illustrations because ooh.
I feel like that one strayed a little bit. I don't have the book in front of me. It looks similar. It doesn't look like they in the 1939 movie. They look more because they look like people. They're people in suits.
Yeah.
I get that, but this one looked a little too cartoony. I don't know. His face was bothering me.
It looked cartoony to me. That being said, some things I noticed, I was looking some stuff up on IMDb, and I noticed that Maurice Sendak was credited as preliminary artwork. This is the author of Where the Wild Things Are. In a later article that I found, it did confirm that Walter Murch had met with him a bit to do production design for this movie, and apparently Maurice Sendak was terrified by the original movie when he was a kid.
Okay, sure. There's some scary scenes.
There are some scary scenes. It's funny because I remember telling my neighbors once that we were going to watch The Wizard of Oz with our son, and they immediately were like, oh, those flying monkeys are so scary though. And I guess to me, I always felt like that was sort of the one scary scene. I didn't think of it as a scary movie, but I don't know. I'm kind of interested now. I should have looked into whether it was the flying monkeys or more than that terrified him.
Well, the witch is kind of scary. Like, depending on how old you are when you watch it, too.
Yeah.
When you think of a wicked witch, we don't even use the word wicked because you say that word and you automatically think of Oz, but a witch, it's hard for me not to picture, maybe not exactly always the green skin, but the way that she's dressed in that film. The hat, the cloak, the broom. Mm-hmm. Like, that's just like a classic witch look.
True.
And she's
witches are scary. I get that. Yeah. Or they can be.
The whole movie, like, throwing fireballs at people and telling a young girl that she's going to get her and her dog.
Fair.
Yeah.
I also noticed that Francis Ford Coppola is listed as an assistant to the director.
Interesting.
Yeah. So again, friends in high places.
Yeah.
Maybe his role as assistant was getting the director's job back.
Yeah. Or maybe he was like reminding him when to call cut.
Reminding him to take that poor man out of the TikTok costume.
Yeah.
All right. So we open to our Kansas scenes, which apparently people had such a problem with. Like you said in your intro, it's about 6 months since Dorothy went to Oz, and I don't know, she's plagued by memories of Oz and she can't sleep.
Yeah, which is weird. I feel like they don't, not that they need to, I guess, but they don't explain too much. Constantly telling her family about Oz, and I can't tell if she's like upset or not, because sometimes they're like, oh, well, this happened. I'm like, oh, that sounds lovely, but then this happened. Like, that sounds horrible. Right. It's weird. But yeah, she's lying awake in bed, and Annie M comes in. She's like, it's past 1 a.m. in the morning. First of all, that's redundant.
Yeah.
Second of all, bitch, what are you doing up?
I think they're up worrying about Dorothy, maybe.
She's just laying in bed. Just laying in bed. She's just laying in bed with the dog, just chilling, looking out at shooting stars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard her say a line about go to sleep like Toto. And I hadn't noticed Toto in the scene yet, so I was like, did they put the dog to sleep? I was really confused.
I think they show Toto first. They pan from the window to the bed, and Toto's just like lying on the bed to sleep. Although I feel like the color of this dog kind of blended in with the color of the comforter on the bed.
I was also possibly typing something. It's okay.
I tend to miss things when I'm typing too, but that's pretty fucked up that you thought that.
You know what?
Maybe I'm just gonna put.
No, now that I have watched this whole thing, I wouldn't have put it past them.
Annie, it's not a suggestion to go to sleep. She's threatening. If you don't go to sleep, child, you ain't waking up. I'm going to put you down like Toto.
Oh, I thought she was saying, like, something like, oh, I wish I could go to sleep like Toto. Like, maybe he had passed and they lied to her that he was sleeping.
Okay.
Like, you know that thing that they do for little kids when pets die?
The dog farm, yeah.
Yeah. He's at a farm upstate.
They are in a farm upstate. They are the farm. Where the hell is he going to go?
I know.
He's going to the suburbs.
I don't think those existed yet.
Oh, yeah. We have to get into the year here soon.
Yeah. Okay. So, speaking of timing with this, I watched this before doing any research. I went into this pretty much blind. The whole time I was so confused because I was like, if this is Return to Oz, if this was a sequel, why is Dorothy younger? Why is she a little girl? Because she's very much, in the original movie, Judy Garland's like teenager age, right?
Yeah.
I spent the whole beginning of this movie just trying to understand like what I was supposed to be getting from this. But I also like in terms of her age, in terms of like where we are with things. But I also definitely went into this thinking it was supposed to be a sequel to the movie.
I also thought that because, again, I forgot what the situation was. And also, whenever I actually watched this movie, 5, 6, 7, whatever, I didn't research it. So I had no one telling me that it's definitely not a sequel. Because, first of all, I love the first one, as we all remember.
Right.
But it's called Return to Oz.
Yes.
Like, it sounds like, I get it, it's off the books, but we didn't know that growing up. And it is confusing that she's 10 years younger in this movie than in the original. So are Annie M and Uncle Henry. They also seem to be younger, which I guess makes sense.
Yeah, like I said, I was thinking of this as a sequel to the movie. But even like you said, with it being based off the books, they could have taken one of the titles from the books and it might have been less confusing.
Right.
And also, we mentioned this when we talked about The Wizard of Oz. It looms so large in pop culture that, I mean, you can give all the pre-release interviews you want saying, guys, it's a totally different movie. It's based on the books, whatever. And it kind of doesn't matter because, you have people like us who are just like, let's put in this movie and don't know anything about it. It's, again, yes, the title Return to Oz is confusing.
Yeah. That and the paying the extra fee to use the term ruby slippers didn't help either.
Yeah, I want to know how much they had to pay them.
Because I was very confused too, because I knew it was separate. And before reading your research or whatever, I'm typing along while watching, and she had mentioned, like, at the doctor's office, like, well, what happened to your ruby slippers? I was like, excuse me, you said what now? What color were those slippers? Are you allowed to say that?
Oh, yeah.
Because
that's before we actually see them.
Yeah, I was very confused.
Which, again, made me think it was supposed to be a direct sequel to the movie. And I was just like, why is she so much younger? Like, I'm like, what am I supposed to be taking from this? Yeah, and even my notes, it's been 6 months since the tornado. Why is she a child? She aged backwards.
That's how time works in Oz, I guess. It's like the fountain of youth.
I did have a note that the way she is constantly talking about Oz, I'd probably be concerned as well.
Yeah.
Because you just see her talking a lot and very fast about, like, I have to go help my friends in Oz and I have to do this. And that also confused me too, because I felt like she left everyone in a pretty good spot in the last movie. So I was like, why does she suddenly have to go back and it's so dire? And again, still thinking of this as a direct sequel.
Exactly. I was going to say, well, now that's shame on us for thinking that her friends are in a good spot, because as we saw, they were, but I think in the book they are too. I don't know. I think more or less it's the same. Just oddly enough, it's worse in the book as far as, think of like Grimm fairy tales. And actually in this scene where she's talking to the doctor and she describes the Tin Woodsman and like, they cut off his arm and his leg and his other arm, his other leg. Like, that's in the book. I mean, not in detail like that, but they describe that a tin woodsman because of that, and that's a little dark. And he also, the woodsman, uses axe to fend off some sort of flying like monster that comes after them. He like, I think actually a bunch of bees, maybe, I forget. He chops up a bunch of things that are coming to attack them.
Okay, yeah, because when she was going on and on about chopping off limbs in front of the doctor, it was like, okay, well, you are not helping your case, ma'am.
No, but she's a child, and child are speaking truth. She doesn't know it's going to hurt her.
Fair. But so we're still on the farm before she gets taken to the doctor. We make a point to see her cuddling this chicken named Belina. Forever I will want to call her Belinda, but whatever, it's fine. It's Belina.
Yeah, Belinda, the good chicken of the north.
Right? I thought that Toto looked kind of like scragglier and emaciated. Again, thinking of this as supposed to be a sequel compared to the first movie, but none of my notes mattered because I was just wrong about everything.
Welcome to Whose Podcast Is Anyways, where our notes don't matter.
Yeah. But this is the point where Dorothy finds a key in the ground or in the chicken coop. I don't know. And it's supposed to have an O and a Z at the top. And it looks just like a circle with a line through it. And I was like, how does this girl get Oz out of this? Like, I would have never thought that.
Meanwhile, at home, Joe goes, oh, look, it says Oz on the key. So I don't know. Like, she picked it up and I was like, oh, I get it. It's a key to Oz. There's an O with a line. There's a Z.
It's okay.
I don't know. I don't know how I got it.
When we see that symbol later, you can very clearly see the Z. But in this key, I did not see it. But it's okay.
I was more concerned to where the key came from because she's talking to Belina and telling her she's got to lay an egg or her aunt's going to fry her up for breakfast. And then the key just like looks like it falls from somewhere. I'm like, did that chicken just fucking hatch a key?
Oh, I didn't.
So I was more concerned with that than the engravings on it.
Fair, yeah.
Although in this movie, she probably could have.
Well, right, yeah. There's some point where Dorothy's pouting. I think Annie M. or her uncle, whatever, is telling her to stop all her crazy talk. And when she makes this pouty face, I can totally see older Fairuza Balk with her nose ring in The Craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of all the thousands of actors, I think a reason or reasons they picked her is expressive eyes and lips. Like, she just, like, she was very pouty. I was like, oh, this poor child. She's so sick. Like, I was feeling it for a second for this little girl. She looked so disheartened by her aunt. I think it's the scene where, like, their aunt's talking shit about Uncle Henry. Like, they're supposed to be rebuilding a new house. It's like, he hasn't done anything. And Dorothy's like, but he has a broken leg.
Yeah, and that confused me too because, again, at this point, I'm still thinking this is a direct sequel. I was like, wait, didn't she wake up at home at the end of the movie? But then, yes, of course, we do see the tornado picking up their house at some point. But again, none of this matters because it's not a direct sequel.
Yeah, because I'm assuming most people, this is a big assumption, that in the original movie, when she wakes up in bed, the whole thing was a dream because before flying away to Oz, she hits her head. She was sleeping. She had a crazy concussion-induced dream.
Yep.
This movie, like, no, that shit happened for real. Their house is gone.
Yeah, exactly. So they decide to take her to a doctor. We see Annie M. and Dorothy on a horse-drawn carriage, like, going away to the doctor. Toto kind of runs after them. They're like, no, you have to stay home this time. Okay. Did you feel like this landscape looked like Kansas, first of all?
I feel like I don't know what Kansas looks like based on movies I've seen. I don't know. Okay. It reminded me of, I want to say, The Grapes of Wrath. Or
I could see that.
Like another Depression movie.
Okay. I ask this because apparently the footage of, quote unquote Kansas was so controversial because remember, this is where they were when people started quitting, like the cameraman left, and this is when they were ready to fire Walter Murch, our director. Also, apparently, test audiences said that all of the Kansas scenes were dark and depressing and disturbing.
Yeah, that's what I think about Kansas, yeah. I'm kidding. I guess no idea.
No, I understand you're kidding, but I just don't understand. Okay, first of all, like, if you think that's disturbing, wait till the rest of this movie.
Right. Those weird rock guys weren't so bad, but man, that shot of Kansas, I don't believe it for a second. That was clearly Utah.
Yeah, and they said that this was what Disney felt as well when they were, looking through the footage that had been shot already. It was part of why they decided to get rid of Murch, because they also thought the stuff in Kansas looked so bad and depressing. And I just don't understand this. Because again, like, wait till the rest of the movie. But then Walter Murch was defending himself, saying this is how people would have really lived if they were trying to make a living off the land in 1900 Kansas. And all of this seems just kind of ridiculous to me, considering, I don't know, we don't spend that much time in Kansas in this movie. No. And I don't think that what's happening here is the landscape that big of a deal.
Okay, so a few points here. First of all, I'm going to go back a little bit to that pouting scene. I have a note here. Another reason they're going to the doctor is I feel like Em and Henry are like at wit's end. Because Dorothy won't shut the fuck up about Oz.
Yeah, she really won't.
So there's that. But then, like, the real reason Aunt Em is concerned of her lack of sleep is she says something along the lines of, like, you're not sleeping at night, so you can't help me in the morning. She's like, hey,
I caught that.
9-year-old slave labor, you're not helping build this house because you're too tired from not sleeping. We got to go shock your brain at the doctor's.
Yes.
So there's that. Yes, you are 100% right that we're barely in Kansas. I mean, I would say 15, 20 minutes total, but a lot of it's just Dorothy and her aunt and uncle or whatever they are, like, in the house. I think the scene that people are crying about is when they're going to the doctor's, when they're on the wagon.
Sure.
I would imagine. But much like the original movie, the whole idea, I feel, is to make this look as plain and drab as possible, so when you go to Oz, you're just blown away by all the weirdness and color.
Yeah, I also thought that. But again, I don't understand the disturbing part. Unless it's... I mean, the story, sure, it's disturbing that this girl's being taken to the doctor for her crazy talk, but that doesn't have anything to do with...
Kansas.
Like, his footage. That's just the story.
Maybe they're just sad that it looks so depressing. I don't know. And again, this is not a sequel, so like one of my notes where are the farmhands, as in like the guys that were also Tin Man, Scarecrow, Lion.
I thought that too, yeah.
But it's funny that people thought this was disturbing. The one shot where it's a wide shot, they're in the distance. I thought it was a beautiful shot. It's just the carriage going left to right on a hill. I mean, this is probably why it took 5 weeks to film. Like, he was waiting for that money shot.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned that this continued to be a problem even when they played the movie for test audiences.
Yeah.
People were like, Kansas looks so dark and disturbing.
When I found out it's 1899, like a scene later, I'm like, this makes sense the way everything looks. I'm thinking of like frontier, Wild West type stuff, like, you know, part of the country is still living like this. Like,
well, right. And obviously they're building their own house because of like, this is how things were and this is how they're living. Like, I just don't understand. I don't know. Kansas was too gray, maybe. I don't know. So we're at the point that we are taking Dorothy, I guess, into the city to see this fancy doctor who uses electricity. I did have a note that the doctor's office does look very imposing, but I mean, he's gonna just shock her. So, I mean,
Yeah,
that's...
how could it not?
How could it not? Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to point out that the doctor, I thought he sounded pretty familiar. Not too familiar with all of his work. He has done a lot. But I know him from the Spawn movie. He was the angel of his help training Spawn. I forget his name. And also the mom, or sorry, not the mom, the aunt. Mom, aunt, whatever. M. She is Piper Laurie, and she was the mom in Carrie.
Yeah, I did recognize her. And it took me a little bit because, again, like I was getting confused because everyone looks so much younger. So apparently, well, first of all, I had a note about, like, in all seriousness, why did we think shocking people was helpful? Is this like a more modern bloodletting? Like, why was this such a thing? According to Walter Murch, who I guess did his research about L. Frank Baum, Baum was very interested in electricity and electrotherapy. So it made it into a lot of the books. And I mean, the books were released, the two that this movie were based off of, they were released in 1904 and 1907. So it lines up with the introduction of this as a new technology. Just, I don't know. I can't get over the fact that they're like, here, little girl, stay overnight and we'll shock you and it's all going to be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Good old new technology.
Mm-hmm. I had a quote from the actor Sophie Ward. She plays one of the heads of Princess Mombi, but Princess Mombi is the nurse that we encounter here. So a little confusing to explain at this point, but she had a quote saying, culturally, that really strikes a chord about treatments being misused and misapplied and women not being believed. And I do think she has a point here, especially about women not being believed in medical settings. However,
yeah,
this girl's talking about people getting their limbs chopped off.
Well, yes. Yeah, I don't. It would sound crazy to me, too, if some little girl's like, this man's made of tin. Why is he made of tin, sweetheart? He chopped off all of his limbs for love, and then the witch enchanted his axe and took the rest of them off. Okay?
Yep.
Well, we're going to sign you up for some shock therapy.
Mm-hmm. I was shocked, no pun intended, that her aunt just leaves her there. She's like, well, you understand I have to get back to your uncle, and leaves her to stay there overnight and like receive her treatment alone. And yeah, you have that shot where Dorothy's like, she's been put in the room where she's going to stay and she's watching her aunt ride away out the window. Like, that hit me harder than whatever is supposedly disturbing about Kansas. I
would agree.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of dark, this whole facility, like, man, you believe in electricity as a therapy. How about turn on some fucking lights around here?
Yeah.
That was dark. Especially the following scene where they strap her down to, like, wheel her into the room to do her therapy. Mm-hmm. It is very scary. I feel like Kansas, I had nothing wrong with Kansas. And like I said, one of those shots, like, stood out to me as a great shot that I had to type it down. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't think anything of it in that way, I guess. Like, it was believable.
Yeah. Walter Murch said, in terms of Aunt M leaving her there, sometimes even the most well-meaning of parents, for their own reasons, make choices that put their kids in jeopardy, and you have to make your own friends and find your own way. That's what happens in life. And he said he was trying to tap into every child's fear of abandonment. And then I wrote, maybe this man just, like, shouldn't be making children's movies. I don't know. It's just, like, really heavy.
I mean, it works, though.
I mean, it works, but terrifying. Like,
yeah.
Anyway. And we have not even scratched the surface.
We're not even in Oz yet. We just left Kansas.
Yep. So this is where, once Dorothy is in her room, locked in her room, this is where, like, a random blonde girl, doesn't she appear in her mirror or something?
I feel like she just turned around, she was there, unless I missed something while I was typing. But she's like looking out the window, like waving to M, And she turns around, and there's a girl standing by the doorway with a pumpkin in her hand.
So, yeah, I had that as her second time appearing. Like, now she's back, but with a jack-o'-lantern. So, again, I was getting Halloween vibes because, you know, I'm like, oh, surprise ghost girl. Like, I didn't know what was going on. And
I thought she was a ghost, too.
And then also she's holding a jack-o'-lantern, and I think she does say something like it's Halloween soon. So it's like, I don't know. I was ready for, like, kind of like how we talked about the weird sequels to Halloween the movie. Like, is this, you know, our season of the witch offshoot or whatever? Like, what are we doing?
I want to see that collab. Halloween, season of the Wicked Witch.
And then one of them, I can't remember which girl it is, puts the jack-o'-lantern on the dresser and pretends to comb it. Which was, I was like, are they crazy and they think this is a doll? Like, what is happening? I was reading this completely wrong, but I was just, I was primed for something else, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously I hated all of this because you have creepy girl popping up. Obviously alluding to spooky shit because she has the jack-o'-lantern. Like, I did not know what I was in for, but I was like, look, it's rated PG. How bad could this be?
Have you not paid attention to our podcast?
I know. And then I was like, well, Steven Spielberg isn't involved, but still.
Somehow. You know, he was a little bit.
Maybe a little bit.
He's like, Walter, I can't make this movie right now. Wink, wink, but I'll help you. George, Francis, come on.
Jesus. Oh, I was just thinking about when Martin Scorsese finally won the Oscar. Didn't they have, like, Spielberg, Coppola, and George Lucas present the award?
I think so.
Like, I'm just imagining them, like, doing the same thing for Walter Murch, like, banding together.
Yeah, like they didn't know he was about to win. Yeah.
Okay, should get to Oz sometime. You have a note that when they take her in to be shocked, they're definitely just giving her headphones.
Yeah, okay, so I don't know much about shock therapy, thank God.
Right, yeah.
But, like, in most movies, they put the receptors, like, on your temples or something like that. This legit looks like Beats by Dre put on her head. It's got the band. It's literally going over her ears as my headphones are right now. I was like, are they going to shock her or, like, make her deaf?
Yeah.
What is about to happen here?
Like, again, same. Not that I know much about this, but, like, I've seen Young Frankenstein. Doesn't it go in your temples?
Right. Somewhere not by your ear, or, like, specifically your ear canals. It's, I was confused.
Yes.
So, yeah, my notes go, are those headphones? Nah, they can't be headphones. No, they're definitely headphones. Why does she have headphones on? And then, oh, good, the blonde girl's back to help.
Yep. Yes. They are able to escape because the power goes out. Is that right?
Yes, very conveniently timed electric storm, that takes the power out right before they're about to zap Dorothy's eardrums. So they go to, like, I don't know, turn the breakers back on or whatever. They go to investigate something, and then poof, the blonde girl's here and helps her escape the room.
Yeah, I think at this point, also because I thought the blonde girl in the, you know, doctor's office, whatever, was going to be a bigger thing, I was like, well, did this girl get, like, left? Does she just have repeating treatments? Like, why does it seem like she lives here, kind of?
Yeah.
Because as far as we knew, Annie M was just going to come pick her up the next day, like, after her one treatment. I had a lot of thoughts that, like, didn't end up mattering because it wasn't.
Yeah.
This was not as big of a plot point as I thought.
Right. I was wondering, like, how much of this was real or she was imagining it. There are things where, like, okay, she shows up with the pumpkin, and then obviously we see a pumpkin-headed figure later. So, like, things that are, I don't know, in Dorothy's subconscious maybe that makes her think of these things. They were, like, trying to escape. I couldn't tell because no one's really interacting with the other girl. So I'm like, is she a figment of her imagination? Is she a ghost? What's going on?
Right. Yeah, and she's kind of just, like, wandering freely. That's why I thought she was, like, supposed to be a ghost or something.
Yeah.
Because you would think that mean nurse lady, who, you know, we see later in Oz being a villain, would be yelling at this girl to, like, go back to her room or something.
Right.
So, but yes, the girls run away into the storm.
Into the storm. They run through some woods and escape the nurse by jumping into a river.
Mm-hmm. I really was expecting a tornado, to be honest.
And I'm glad there wasn't. That'd be...
I mean, yeah, that'd be overkill, but yeah.
You know, this is not a sequel. Bring back the tornado. But yeah, there's like random debris in the river that they climb onto, or at least Dorothy climbs. I don't know what happens to the little blonde girl. She just is gone.
She just disappears, which furthered my belief that she was a ghost.
Right. Right. So yeah, she's in like a floating chicken coop or
I thought it was like
baby
a crib. I didn't know.
Yeah, something. And she wakes up and she's somewhere else.
She is somewhere else that looks like Dune to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, it's funny. You just mentioned that you wanted that division of how drab Kansas looks and then, like, pretty Technicolor Oz. And we really don't get that because she wakes up in this sandy, rocky place. And there is a forest nearby, but it really isn't the big difference that it was in the first movie.
Right. We forgot to mention when she wakes up, who's with her?
I know.
Bellina.
And according to Bellina, yeah, who else would it be? Because she talks now.
Yeah, I was going to say, you heard that right, folks. Bellina did say, well, who else?
Yeah.
I'm going to say this now. I think this might be my favorite character. This is a sassy-ass chicken.
Yes. I was not into it at first because I was like, oh, so she's just taking another animal to Oz with her? Like, instead of Toto, it's the chicken now. But also the chicken talks, whereas Toto was definitely just a dog.
A dog.
Yeah. Yeah, she's asking, where did Kansas go? And then I had a note about, like, the chickens pointing at things and really like a person.
It was weird.
It was weird. Mm-hmm.
It's weird because Bellina says, where did Kansas go? Where did you come from? I was in a river with a blonde girl. I wake up in a playpen with a chicken.
Yep. That was my other thought, too, when I was comparing it with, you know, Toto being her other animal companion. Toto was at least, like, with her, right, when the tornado happened in the first movie? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so whatever. We have a random chicken now who, you know, had hatched that Oz key, so...
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe he did. She somehow... I feel like there's some connection between, like, Oz and the chicken now.
Mm-hmm.
Because we, you know, she magically appeared once we... Well, yes, even more so, but she magically appeared when Dorothy, you know, popped up in Oz again.
She mentions that, oh, we're in a pond. She's like, no, it's not a pond, it's a river. Then, like, it zooms out, and it's a pond. And then they cut back into them talking, and they cut back out, and the water's gone. And so Dorothy's like, oh, we're in this deadly desert where everything turns to sand. I was like, bitch, how do you know that?
Yeah.
You like,
she
talk
talks
about all these...
and she knows things.
Yeah. So I guess maybe this was maybe the final straw for me where I'm like, this is clearly nothing to do with the other movie. Like, I gotta stop thinking of it until, like, 45 minutes from now when the ruby slippers come back out. But other than that, there's no connection to the movie. But it was confusing because she, like, knows so much, and we just have to suspend disbelief that she just had a bigger adventure in Oz the first time that we are aware of from the first movie.
No, I get what you're saying, though, because, like, Dorothy has more knowledge of Oz than, like, what we saw in the first movie. So, again, in my head, I'm still like... when did you find out about, like, this desert or wherever you are? And, like, the sand is bad. Like, if you step on the sand, it kills you or something. I can't remember exactly what happens.
You just turn into sand. Like, it absorbs all of your being, right. I suppose.
But, yeah, like, to your point, she knows enough to know that she can't step in the sand. She has to, like, hop along rocks while holding the chicken, which looks very difficult, to be honest.
It's a big chicken.
It is a big chicken, yeah.
It's half the size of Dorothy.
Yeah, this is when... So at first I was like, okay, so we're doing basically the same story, but we're just slotting in different types of characters. Like instead of Toto, it's a chicken. So I was still thinking this was direct sequel.
Yeah.
Whereas you're saying this is where it started to like become clearer to you that it was not.
In my now adult brain, yes. But everything you just said is probably why I've only seen this movie once or twice as a child. I'm going, no, this makes sense. Like, it's, how does she know so much? It's not, like you said, I just remember feelings from my childhood, and you said it perfectly. They just are doing something different in Oz and slotting new characters in, and that's what I remember feeling as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? This is not the Oz I grew up loving watching every day, 25 times a day. Like,
yeah. So while this is all going on, these rocks are waking up, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
They have faces. They're watching Dorothy. All the rock stuff was claymation. Although I had a note, why does the 1939 movie look better in terms of these effects? Because some of them were really rough.
I don't have an answer.
Yeah. Because they weren't trying to make claymation rocks. I think that was the answer.
Yeah, that's fair.
So basically, as far as we know, these rocks with faces are the bad guys, and they're kind of spying on Dorothy. There are no witches anymore? Or wait, there...
Well, no.
Well, there is.
Yeah.
I don't know. What happened to Glinda?
This is not a sequel. There's no Glinda. There's no... Although, there's not a sequel, but we have plenty of connections, that's why it gets confusing.
Yeah. Well, because it is a sequel to the first book, which that movie is based on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The rocks are weird, and like you see them, we're going to call it above ground, as rocks with faces, and they're like watching Dorothy, and then like they go, the face part disappears on the rock, and then you see essentially like a red wall of granite, and then the face appears again. So like clearly these rock powers, they can just go to any rock or whatever. And they're like, Dorothy Gale is back. And you hear a voice off screen that sounds like the devil.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't help that there's red everywhere. I'm like, is hell a part of Oz?
Yeah. I had a note that was like, this deeper voice is way too much for me, because it was just so deep that it sounded like it was trying too hard to sound evil.
It was definitely evil.
Yeah. But yes, you just have these rock faces like talking to each other, and one of them says that she's back and then says she has a chicken with her. And I was like, okay.
Chicken.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
like, thinking, what the fuck is going on? And this comes up a lot, so be prepared to hear us talk about a chicken in every character. Like, yes. I do not know why they care so much about a chicken.
It's what comes along with chickens.
Yeah. The keys.
No. But I will say, yes, for most of this movie, these rocks, first of all, rocks, which are supposed to be gnomes, okay, are freaking out about the presence of this chicken, this talking, sassy chicken, and you don't know why.
Don't know why. And like, are they supposed to be gnomes like how we think gnomes are, like with a G? Because there's no G. He's the gnome king. Is that like...
No, it's
Ozonian for rock?
Yeah, I was confused about that too, because once I started my research into this, it's gnome spelled Nome, and in my notes I kept saying, like, I forgot these are supposed to be gnomes, but they're rocks.
They're rocks.
But they're called gnomes.
Mm-hmm. With no G.
With no G. So I don't really know what the answer is here. Much like most of this movie. I just don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Dorothy finds her old house in the woods.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
The one that took her to Oz in the first movie. That's not a sequel. And...
and killed the witch.
It makes sense while in this movie, Em and Henry are rebuilding a house because they lost it in the storm. Now we see why it has landed here. And it is... her old house, and she's at one point Dorothy's like, oh, this is how I got to Oz in the first place, and sassy ass chicken was like, looks like it was a rough trip because the house is all fucking falling apart and shit.
Yeah, it's like overgrown in the woods at this point. There's no more Munchkin land apparently,
and the yellow brick road is just a mess. Just like loose bricks everywhere.
Yes. At some point, Belina, is that her name? Belinda,
Yes.
Belina. I keep thinking of the Muppet Christmas Carol now when Miss Piggy's kids yell at her, like, I'm Belinda, I'm Bettina.
Oh my god.
Let's have more B names that sound similar. Okay, so at one point, Belina says something like, what are you on about, my dear? And I said, why does everyone think Dorothy is still crazy? They are literally in Oz now.
And you are literally a talking chicken. Mm-hmm. I guess in the chicken's defense, she doesn't know that's weird that she's talking in modern English. So,
Yeah,
how's the chicken going to know that? Also, when I heard that, I was not sure that was the chicken talking or someone off screen. And when the shot switched, I expected to see like a witch type figure or someone else on the road. And I was like, was that the fucking chicken?
First time director. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this is where I start to really hate everything. because
Sure.
Because let's all keep in mind, I spook very easily. I don't like it when people's bodies don't move the right way, okay? So we get into Oz, I guess like main city Oz, and there's just a bunch of like ghostly statues that
Yes.
Dorothy right away knows are real people that were turned into statues.
Yeah, she's like, that's Bob, Sue, Henry,
Right.
little Johnny. He owes me money still. Like, she like knew everybody.
Yeah. And Belina, our chicken, says, all this way to see a bunch of stiffs, which made me think of the Goonies because of stiff.
Yeah.
But also, this is where I felt like her commentary started to remind me of Sophia Petrillo from the Golden Girls.
Kinda, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, because they're old hens. Yes. So maybe I'm just an impatient movie watcher. I don't know. I don't think so. But this movie, I felt like I was. Like, the whole chicken thing was, like, bothering me. They get to Emerald City, and I have a note. Well, this clearly is not a sequel. The city's not Emerald at all. We find out an hour and a half later why. It was just, like, bothering me. And again, it's probably because my head was in the other movie.
Yeah.
In my own defense, though, they do mention it's an Emerald City, and she didn't say anything about it. She's like, oh, look at the Emerald City. I'm like, what are you talking about? What is this? I thought this was a different city in Oz, because we see the desert that's new to us. We see other things that's new to us as far as it not being a sequel. But thinking, as we know Oz, even if it was a book, these are new territories we haven't seen yet. So I thought this was another city on the way to the Emerald City. And when she drops that line, I'm like, what? Emerald what now?
Right. I think I'm also just getting all my Wizard of Oz references like mixed up because now I have One Short Day in the Emerald City stuck in my head from Wicked. Yeah, I knew it was supposed to be the Emerald City, I guess, but it's like overgrown and destroyed, so I just figured that was why.
Yeah. Also,
I need to point out that some of these frozen statue people are missing their heads because that's actually very important.
Yep. You started getting spooky here, and all the statues gave me vibes of Doctor Who, the Don't Blink episode.
I don't know Doctor Who, sorry.
Well, either way, it's creepy. Yep. Or like even to another extent, like maybe a potential Are You Afraid of the Dark episode.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, speaking of creepy, this is where we meet the Wheelers.
And no, not the family from Stranger Things.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, part of it started bugging me because the Wheelers just sounds like a family, like a last name.
You wear the Wheelers.
Yeah, and we see it spray painted, Beware the Wheelers. So, how do I explain the Wheelers? They're like people who are on all fours, except instead of hands and feet, they have wheels, and their arms are too long. And they wear a mask like on the top of their head so that when they bend down, it looks like their face is looking at you, but it's not their real face. Immediately, I was not okay with this. They are so uncomfortable looking.
Yeah. I thought they were, yes, they're very creepy. I thought they were kind of like a roller derby team gone wrong.
Sure, yeah.
Because, like, they are literally on wheels, all 4 feet, like you said, and I'm sure the actors have something extended to where they can touch the ground with their hands and feet at the same time and be, like,
Right.
perfectly arched, like our TikTok friend.
Yep.
But yeah, like, when you first see them, I'm unaware that they have a helmet on their head, because the way it's shot, it looks like their face. That part was done really well, I thought, where he's, like, looking through the rubble and spying on them, and you see, like, bits and pieces of them here and there. Again, remind me of Are You Afraid of the Dark, or something similar. But I have a question I just thought of. If everyone's a statue in this town, and all we see are wheelers who have no hands, who is spray painting the warning about the wheelers?
I was wondering that too, actually, because you see it spray painted, but I'm like, well, everyone's a statue, though. So is there
Unless they,
someone...
like, one by one got picked off or something, and someone was, I don't know.
Except that the way they're all positioned, they were obviously in the middle of doing things.
Doing something, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know. I had this thought too, and there was just too much other stuff going on. Like, why aren't chickens allowed in Oz? So I just quickly forgot about that.
Oh, yeah, because at one point when the wheelers start surrounding Dorothy Gale, they're like, "Come here, chicken!"
Yes,
like,
they're
what?
really out to get the chicken. Also, like, once we do see their actual faces, their hair is, like, spray painted neon colors. They have neon makeup on, and they're always loud and giggling, and I couldn't help thinking of the Joker in Batman.
Yeah.
Maybe more like the cartoon version of the Joker, I don't know. But they just, the bright colors and the uncomfortable giggles, I don't know
totally
how...
get that, yep.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me, too. Especially later when he's interrogating the one, his mask comes off, you see his face.
And yeah, my notes are like, why aren't chickens allowed in Oz? What is this randomness? Like, what's wrong with Belina?
Yeah.
Still no explanation. Okay, so Dorothy uses the key that the chicken hatched and lets herself... Basically, it looks like she opens a wall and the wheelers can't get in, but they're still, like, taunting her through the keyhole, which is creepy enough.
Yeah.
They're like, you can't stay in there forever. We'll catch you soon enough. And she's exploring this room behind the wall, and she finds TikTok, who is a random soldier who was left there to wait specifically for Dorothy from His Majesty the Scarecrow.
Yep. He even has instructions on his back. That's convenient.
And you have to wind him up, but you have to wind him up for, like, every separate function, like thinking, moving. I don't remember what else.
Speaking.
Okay.
I think.
And he says, I am not alive and never will be, thank goodness.
Right. Yes, this is in reference to everyone being a statue.
Yes. Okay. So this is what kills me, though. They decide to, like, creep on out. I think they're going to go find Scarecrow or something. I don't know. I mean, they can't stay in the room forever.
Yeah. Or no, they're looking for... TikTok tells her that he does not know where Scarecrow is, but he knows someone that does. This is Princess Mombi. And he is a soldier, and he is there to protect Dorothy. So he's feeling himself. He's very confident he can take out these wheelers.
Yes.
With his round, short ass.
He looks
Can't even walk.
You know, like the old school, like, Frosty the Snowman animation? That's kind of what he looks like, but, like, all gold.
And, like, 2 feet shorter.
Sure. He's just so round. Okay, but this is what kills me. Number one, they're creeping, quote unquote, out of this room, but they're so damn loud because they have to push open a stone wall, and also TikTok, like, has loud thumping footsteps. Oh, also, can we talk about, like, first of all, TikTok, this character being named TikTok in this day and age, obviously I can't not think about the app, but his name is spelled like the app too, with no C's.
Yep.
Okay, that's all. I didn't like that.
I didn't like it when the app came out spelled that way. 'Cause I'm like, I know where I've seen that before.
I did not. So anyway, they're creeping out of the room, which I'm like, okay, the Wheelers are going to get them immediately because, like, this is loud as hell. Then later, when they're kind of more out in the open and the Wheelers do attack, TikTok just whirls his torso around so his arms hit all the Wheelers.
Mm-hmm.
And the Wheelers don't seem to be aware that they could just not approach TikTok and then they wouldn't get hit. Like, they could totally just they could just walk around him,
right,
grab the girl, and run away. The girl and the chicken.
This didn't bother me too much because when he first activates Twirly Punch, or whatever you want to call it, like they're all kind of close to him, he waits. But then, like, yeah, he keeps happening and they keep getting to him. I feel like it's like a classic action movie scene where, like, the bad guys are too confident that the numbers can take out the hero, and they just keep it. I don't know. I've seen too many dumb action movies where, like, yep, this clearly one guy with no weapons are going to kill everybody, and he does. And so it kind of works in a way. Also, it's very silly. But then they end up, like, kind of getting smart to this, and they just, instead of, to your point, go around to go get the chicken and the girl, they just flee. They're like, fuck it, we're done. This guy beat us up.
Yeah. Well, because TikTok even tells Dorothy to, like, run up a set of stairs to be safe, but there are more Wheelers up there.
Up there, yeah.
So they're totally surrounded.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whatever. You said, just, we're going to go with it. So they escape, and they get to Princess Mombi's house.
Yes, they are given, I think, directions or information from this head Wheeler via interrogation, which is literally like TikTok. He grabs him by the collar, just like jostles him around.
Yeah.
And I thought he was a crackhead. It was so bizarre. His mannerisms, the constant laughing, like you said, like the Joker. Yeah, that was my note there. I'm like, is he interrogating a crackhead? Because that's what it felt like. Seen too many episodes of Cops.
TikTok feels like he would be so easy to take out, and yet here we are.
Yeah.
Like, he's slow, he can't move in every direction, you know.
Not well, at least.
He can only move for 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yeah, just wait it out, Wheelers. Just wait a second. You impatient fucks.
Oh my god.
Anyway, they get to the castle of Princess Mombi, and it looks like no one's done anything for at least 6 months or whatever this time frame is. Mm-hmm. And good old Belina, she goes, man, this Mombi is some housekeeper. There's like dust everywhere and spider webs.
Yep.
Judgmental chicken.
Yeah, she really, like, Sophia Petrillo. I'm telling you. Yes. So we think maybe for a few minutes that Princess Mombi is okay, like maybe a good guy. Then suddenly she's taking Dorothy on a little tour of the castle and starts walking past a bunch of heads.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, I hate this too.
At first the heads didn't bother me. Well, I guess they didn't really bother me at all, but I didn't think what was going to happen next. I just thought, I don't know, they were weird. Maybe Futurama ruined this for me. I'm used to like people's heads being in jars and still being active. Again, this is a made-up land, weird magic. What triggered me into like thinking something's going to happen that's not going to be favorable for Dorothy is when she's like, I'm wearing the wrong head for this. Which, first of all, what the fuck's that mean, lady? But she's like, Dorothy, come with me. You other guys stay here. I go, no, that is not going to be good.
Right.
Yeah.
And yes, she does indeed change to another head.
Mm-hmm.
She literally can lift the neck and head off, put it down, put on a new one. This is apparently why all those statues out front were missing heads, because she just took all their heads.
Yeah.
Because she wants to look different for different situations.
Having a bad hair day? Switch your head.
Yep. Nightmare fuel for children.
For some reason, this didn't bother me so much with all the other weirdness going on. It just, I don't know, we've briefly mentioned Neverending Story. I felt like there's a bunch of weird shit in that movie. Also, like, rock people as well.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it is a sensible thing that's happening, but for some reason this wasn't as scary as I felt like it could have been. It's not graphic at all. It's just maybe I'm thinking she's a robot. I don't know. And she's not, but it just there's ways to explain it to yourself, at least if you're a kid. I don't know.
I mean, I will say at this point in the movie, I could totally understand why you told me maybe don't watch this with my son.
Yeah. After she switches heads and she's having a conversation with... By the way, why did Dorothy just flee? She's still kind of nice right now. And then she switches to her mean head, which this is the same head as the nurse, right?
I think so, yeah.
And she says something about, like, Dorothy... She doesn't outright call Dorothy an Uggo. But she basically said, hey, you're not quite that pretty, but I might need your head anyway. I'm going to put you in the tower for a couple years and, like, see if you get prettier.
Like, grow into it, yeah.
Yeah, like, I clearly am not quoting directly here, but that's basically the vibe. Like, what the fuck? What a bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, Dorothy's like 10, 11?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, so she gets locked in a room. In my notes, I wrote something that this painting of the scarecrow in this tower is so ridiculous, but now I don't remember what that painting was.
Same.
But the scarecrow looks ridiculous in this movie.
Yeah.
Especially if you've ever seen the scarecrow in the other movie.
I will say the 1939 scarecrow looks like a fucking scarecrow.
Well, yeah, this one's all like googly-eyed and wearing a crown because he's His Majesty the Scarecrow now, which, like, I don't know if that's explained or if I missed it.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe him, and yes, it does look more like the artwork than the movie, the original movie, but if you're desperately trying to separate the two like we are right now, think of, like, Temu Scarecrow, Wish.com Scarecrow.
That's funny
because Scarecrow at home.
That's how I was thinking of Jack Pumpkinhead compared to, like, Jack Skellington.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Also same vibes there, yeah.
Yep. Okay. So, this is when we meet Jack Pumpkinhead, so that's convenient. Maybe it's Belina that says, is that a man or a melon?
It has to be her.
It has to be, yeah. And then they point out this, like, moose head that's mounted on the wall, and I wrote, is that moose wearing lipstick? Because it looked like it was.
I don't recall that part. I mean,
okay.
I recall that part, but I don't remember if I thought he had lipstick on or not.
Okay.
I was distracted with them, like, trying to rebuild Jack Skellington. Or, damn it, see?
See? Yeah, so I don't really remember, like, why Jack is a thing. But, yeah, he's worried about his head rotting. I don't know. And then he asks Dorothy if he can call her mom.
Mm-hmm.
Like, too much.
Yeah, that was, like, why does she... I don't get it. I'm assuming... I'm trying to defend it. Maybe that's not the right word, but, like, make it make sense. He is not quite in pieces, but he's, like, kind of ragamuffined around. He's got his head on. His limbs are disjointed. So, again, this is why, as a child, I thought this is just a replacement for the Scarecrow. Even though they've clearly talked about, where is my friend Scarecrow?
Yeah.
He's not in the movie, so it's like, TikTok is the new Tin Man, obviously. Jack Pumpkin Tin Head guy. He's clearly, the way he walks and fumbles about, he's clearly the new Scarecrow. And the fact that they have to rebuild him is very similar to me. And so maybe it's like that Mama Bird situation. It's like, okay, well, she didn't birth him or use magic to make him alive, but, like, put him back together, made him whole. I don't know. I'm trying to make it make sense. I think it's a stretch.
I mean, I understand he has, like, a creator, and then also, like, Dorothy comes along and kind of, like, puts him back together. I just couldn't handle how the rest of the movie, he's just like, Mom, Mom, Mom. And it's like this little girl that needs saving. And, you know, in the, again, not a sequel, but in the original, everyone called her Dorothy.
Yeah. Well, then they know about her, because every time, like, she's entering a new villainous area, this Prince Mombi, or, like, stepping on rocks, or, like, Dorothy Gale is back. With the chicken. And, like, I get the Dorothy Gale part because, like, I don't know, bitch dropped a house on someone's sister. She might be dangerous.
Yeah, yeah.
But she's also clearly 9 years old, so figure out a way how to dispatch a child. I don't understand.
But the way you said with the chicken is exactly how it sounds, too.
Thank you.
That was really good. But yeah, again, still at this point, we don't know why the chicken's a bad thing still.
No.
Yeah, so they all decide they need to, like, escape from the witch's castle. But somehow Dorothy has to go steal something from the witch while she's sleeping. Oh, the powder of life, right?
Well, they are trapped in this room, I guess. Oh, yeah, that's the tower. Yeah. And they're like, how do we get out of here? They take a sofa, the moose head, some leaves from these, like, palm tree looking things in there, tie it all together with some shoddy rope, and they're like, okay, well, we can fly out with this contraption, but it'd be better if it was alive, because it's how it's going to flap its wings. Oh, well, how did Jack come to be alive? The princess did it with the powder of life, because it's so convenient. So Dorothy has to sneak out and go into the princess's room to find the powder.
Yeah. And this leads to Headless Princess waking up, screaming, running around looking for a head.
Yeah, that was kind of terrifying.
Yeah. Dislike.
The headless body wasn't the part that was, like, scariest for me. It's when she opened up that one chamber to get the powder of life with, like, I'm going to call it the real head is in there. But
sure, yeah.
It's the only one that's not blonde as far as I can tell, by the way.
Yeah. And it's the head of, like, the nurse in the doctor's office at the beginning, yeah.
And she, of course, wakes up and she's just like, it's Dorothy! And I'm like, whoa, it was intense. And all the heads are yelling in their chambers, and that part.
But the scenes
creepy.
of Kansas were too disturbing.
Yes. Because, you know, headless women are just normal.
Normal. Yeah, Kansas didn't look right. The rest is fine. It's legit. And I think in my notes I wrote, how is this a kid's movie? Yeah, so they bring the moose head bed couch flying contraption to life.
Yeah.
And escape.
I love this scene because, so while Dorothy's gone, they're trying to build the moose thing, and then all of a sudden TikTok is just, like, mumble rapping or something. He is, like, malfunctioning because Dorothy forgot to wind him up, right?
Yep.
And he's making no sense. So when she comes back, I think Jack, I can't remember if it's Jack or I think it's Jack. He asks her, how is he able to talk if his brains don't work? And her response goes, it happens to people all the time. And I couldn't help think how appropriate that was.
Yep.
People can talk as much as they want. Doesn't mean their brains are working.
Yeah. So the moose is alive now. The moose head, what is his name?
The Gump.
Okay.
It's actually this is sad too, because he brings him back to life. And he's not like, hey, I'm alive. I am this moose head. He says, hey, what happened to me? I was walking around the forest and I heard a loud noise, and here I am. Like, oh, God, he remembers being shot, kind of.
Yeah, that's children's movie.
Yeah. Anyways, this moose contraption thing, they jump out the window, and eventually he flaps his little palm leaves, and they fly.
Yep.
This scene specifically, when they're, like, escaping the castle flying at night, I was like, wow, this reminds me of Neverending Story.
Yeah. I kind of got that vibe too. But this is also, well, we see them land on a mountain. That's where they're trying to go to find the Gnome King, right?
Yes.
They know about that much, at least.
Yeah.
But then when they do, like, kind of crash land on this mountain, the rocks are talking again, and they're like, now she's on our mountain with a small army. And then the other rock says, what about the chicken?
Yeah, I didn't see the chicken. Are you sure?
With a small army. It's a fucking moose head, like a robot Tin Man thing, and a pumpkin head with a very skinny body who, like, can't control his limbs.
Keep in mind, they crashed on the mountain, so, like, the moose head is kind of separate from his body at this point.
Yes.
They have to, like, rebuild him slightly.
His body being, like, the couch or bed or whatever.
Sofa, yeah.
And this is when like the deeper rock voice, which I think is supposed to be the Gnome King, it gets really staticky, and I don't like it. Like, I don't know. They just really overdid this guy. I don't know. But this is also, so I miss this. They end up in a room, a cave, I don't know, with the Gnome King. He's animated progressively, so he's made out of clay at first. And then with every scene we see him in, he's gradually closer to human form until he's finally like portrayed by the actual actor in live action. And I did realize kind of all of a sudden that like, oh, now this Gnome King just looks like a man with gray paint on him. And
Yeah.
I guess I missed I didn't quite pick up on this gradual evolution here.
Yeah, it's when they're playing that game. I feel like every time a guesser guesses wrong, I felt like he was absorbing their like life essence, for lack of a better term.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And if Dorothy would have gotten it wrong, yes, I'm jumping ahead, but he would have maybe came into like full form, final boss form. I don't know.
Yeah, so this game, he has turned Scarecrow into what he calls an ornament. I feel like when we're actually in this room with the ornaments, it's like we're in an antiques like
Yes.
area.
Yes.
So these, he says ornaments. They're more like vases and trinkets and just, it looks like and looks like an antique store. They all have to one by one go guess which ornament is the Scarecrow. If they guess wrong, they become an ornament. If they guess right, Scarecrow comes back to life and they can leave, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know about the leaving part, but Scarecrow comes back. You will reveal Scarecrow, yeah. And he's generous.
So
He gives them all 3 guesses each.
that's what I was trying to figure out, if it was 3 guesses or 1 guess, because we don't really see the other ones doing it. We see who's left in the room with the Gnome King, and the gnome,
Right.
and then like everything like rumbles when they get it wrong. This is also the point where Bellina is hiding in Jack Pumpkinhead's head.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I think does the gum go first? He doesn't
Does.
live.
The couch feet are his feet. But yeah, he does say, the Gnome King does say, I will give you each 3 guesses. Which I'm like, damn, that's generous. Because he's so confident that they were not going to figure it out.
Yeah.
But at one point, again, this movie is so full of shit talking, it's hilarious. He says, why doesn't the sofa go first?
He is a sofa.
He is, but like the Gnome King knows he's like a sofa not by choice, and they put him together all hodgepodgely, and I feel like it's more of an insult to anything.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. But yeah, I vaguely remember this game, this idea, especially once we see Dorothy actually in the room, like looking at the ornaments and trying to decide which one to pick. Like, I could have sworn I'd seen that before. I could have sworn I'd seen the Wheelers before. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but like some of this was very familiar to me.
Was it just me, or did you get Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade vibes, where he like, has to go find the Cup of Christ at the end?
Yeah, I did.
I definitely felt that.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't help that, like we said, this ornament room is really just antiques, and some of them are very classical looking, like Egyptian or like of a certain time or of a certain culture. It's not something that would necessarily be like this could exist in our world.
Yeah.
It's not some weird Oz thing. I don't like some of it had pharaohs on it. Like,
Yeah, it looked like a wing of a museum.
yes.
Or like several wings of museums, like the leftover stuff put
Like
into like a
mushed
storage
together,
room.
yeah.
Because there's a bunch of, like you said, different cultures and time periods. But like
Yeah.
the cave they were in with the Gnome King was dark and gray, and then they go through this tunnel or whatever. It looks really weird, and then it's like super bright and white and lit up and gold.
I mean, just add to the confusion, I guess. So at this point, Princess Mombi gets a bunch of the Wheelers to like pull her in a chariot to the Gnome King.
Yes.
I hated this even more than regular Wheelers. I just, it was so uncomfortable to me. Just, I don't know. I think because they had to have their heads down to do it. Then you have the weird like mask on top of their heads. I don't know. I don't like them. The Wheelers are probably the worst part of the movie for me, honestly.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
My question, though, is so they're flying away when they escaped, and then the Wheelers are chasing them on ground, and some of them stumble. They try to stop hard, and they stumble, and they end up falling in the desert, we see from the beginning,
right.
and they turn to sand. It's like, oh, we can't get to them. We got to go tell the princess. And then she makes them into a chariot. Where did they go? Like, how'd they get across the desert? Did they go around it? Is that what took them so long? I don't know. It was weird because they stopped pursuing them because of the desert. They go back. And she's like, you idiots, drag me there. And then they get there. I'm like, did I miss something? Was there a bridge that only Princess Mombi knew about that they went around and took the bridge?
You know, who knows? Anything's possible at this point. Oh, this is also when we find out the king is wearing the ruby slippers.
Yeah, it looks like, very silly.
It does, because he's a rock.
Yeah, it's... First of all, they look like a soft shoe version of the ruby slippers. They look like literal slippers and not high heels.
Yeah.
They are ruby slippers. These are something you wear around the house in the wintertime. And like the way he's the way he reveals it, like these rocks pull back, and he's like
as if they're robes.
Yeah, and it's just like, I don't know why, but it looked very like feminine, and it was funny because he's like this like crazy rock guy's like, oh, I'm gonna murder all of you. Look at my shoes. Haha, I got your shoes, bitch. That's the vibe I got.
I think that really is what it like. Because they went to such great lengths to do this, like, ridiculously deep, like, Batman voice to be like, look how evil he is. And it's like, let me lift up my skirts.
You like my shoes? These look familiar, Dorothy? Oh, we lost Rachel.
Every damn time. I knew it was going to happen this time, too.
The best part is this is like when he's at his most human form. So it's the actor. The top half is like super serious and evil. I don't know if it's the same actor's legs or not, but like he's just showing the shoes briefly. Sorry, slippers. And it's just the way it's done. I can't believe it's the same actor, but I want it in a full shot of like serious face and like jazz feet.
Yeah, but I think that's what it is too. Is like they're just these like completely out of place. Forget about them being like women's shoes or whatever. They look so out of place because he's like big scary rock king who's also very drab and gray, and Gnome King, not Rock King. But then he's like, look at my sparkly like cabaret slippers.
Yeah.
This movie makes no sense. This is also where I have in my notes, have we found out yet why chickens aren't allowed here?
We have not.
No, we have not. Because I suddenly remembered that Belina was hiding in the head.
We actually do, like, we see it briefly. She, like, pokes her head out the eye, like, before they enter the tunnel or cave, like before the game even begins. And I honestly forgot she existed for a minute during all this craziness.
Yes.
Same. In defense of the Gnome King, he's not wearing the slippers for fashion. It is a power move.
I know, but it looks ridiculous.
Sure. Maybe if they were silver.
They would have at least matched.
Right, exactly. So anyway, back in the Cave of Wonders, all the friends one by one, thank you, all the friends one by one, they fail. And of course, he chooses, as in the Gnome King, he's the one picking who goes in at a time. He chooses TikTok to go second last. and he's having dialogue with Dorothy. That's where he shows off his slippers. He's like, "Na boo boo, got your shoes." And he's like, "Wait a minute, there's a problem. Your TikTok guy is stopped." She's like, "Oh shit, I forgot to wind him up." He's like, "I guess I'll let you go in there and make him work again."
Yeah.
So she does. She goes in there and she's like, "Oh, there you are, TikTok." He's like, "Shh, girl, this is a trick. I'm actually working. Pretend like you're twisting me around, so when I fail, you can see what I turned into and give you a hint." I was like, this guy is genius. That's such a cool move.
That was very smart, yes.
Yeah.
He does fail.
He does. But she can't see what he turned into because the lights go out, of course.
Of course. You had another point, though, about TikTok?
Oh, before his last guess, he's like having a bit of a heartfelt aside with Dorothy. Like, "Oh, if I turned into an ornament, like, this was great. I was trying to protect you," or something. I don't remember. I was too distracted of like the fact that he was crying like green jello.
Yeah. It's supposed to be like oil?
It was green as shit, though.
Oh,
Like,
it was green. I know.
Yeah.
It was green. Yes. So TikTok fails. Dorothy doesn't see what he turns into. So now it's Dorothy's turn. She's the last one. And like you, I've completely forgotten that the chicken exists at this point. Dorothy manages to figure out some ornament must be Scarecrow because it's green.
Yeah, I feel like it's just a connection to the Emerald City. All the emeralds are gone. The Gnome King took all the emeralds.
Yes.
It made sense.
Sure, yeah. And the crown that Scarecrow is wearing, again, because he's king now, I don't know. I don't know if that's ever really explained or if I just wasn't paying attention. But
His Majesty the Scarecrow.
well, I know, but like that was the only like clue I had. And then you
He is
see him with
King
a
of
crown
Oz.
that has
Yeah.
emeralds around it. But
Can I
anyway,
point out how ridiculous not only the Scarecrow looks, but the crown. This crown looks like the way Scarecrow looks like with this crown. I feel like looks like me at 5 years old going to Burger King for my birthday and getting a crown. Like it's like. It is like a "here you go, kid" kind of crown. It does not look like he's important. He does not look like he rules anything.
yeah.
It is like a participation crown. That's what it looks like to me.
Yes. And you know what? I just realized what Scarecrow himself looks like to me. Like, if you were to go to Times Square and see those people dressed up as, like, knockoff characters, that's what he looks like.
Yeah.
With
we
his
have Scarecrow
big
at home,
eyes.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So Scarecrow comes back and he's all like, "Dorothy," and it's... That's
By the way, he is a Scarecrow. Everything is painted on as if you were to make a Scarecrow at home. So he does not move his mouth, unlike the other version.
Yeah.
He is just a, sack head with facial features painted on it.
Yep.
So he's just like talking telepathy. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good point. Maybe that's why he bothered me too, because like you said, his mouth doesn't move when he talks. Okay, so they get it in their heads that green stuff means it's their friend if they find green objects. So they basically go through like, I can't remember who they turn back. They must turn back Jack Pumpkinhead because he's back at some point.
Yeah.
With Belina in his eyeball hole.
Yeah, she's hiding in his hollowed head. Yeah.
Yes. But then at this point, Princess Mombi has gotten to the Gnome King, and she's basically like, "Why did you let them play this game, dummy?" And
he was like, "Why'd you let them escape, dummy?"
Yeah. So they're just blaming each other for things. He traps her in a very tiny prison cell kind of a thing.
It's like a shark cage.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he gets really mad because Dorothy has figured some stuff out, and he just goes and attacks them and kind of is like tearing apart the room as a big rock blob.
Yeah. So as a good villain, so Walter was right. He's a villain for villain's sake. He gives them these games and parameters, and once they start figuring it out, he gets mad, and he's like, "Oh, screw it, I'm just going to kill you anyways."
Yes.
I can appreciate that. Also like that every time Dorothy goes to a green object and says Oz and turns it back to a friend, now Gnome King is going in reverse. He's less human form. He's going back to claymation. I thought that was kind of cool. But he turns into a giant rock
Mm-hmm.
mountain thing, and he is threatening to eat Dorothy and her friends by
Yes.
picking them up and dropping them in his mouth like
Very
a little
slowly.
snack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you got to pick him up and, lower them down very slowly so we have time to defeat him. They defeat him because he has picked up Jack Pumpkinhead. Belina is still hiding in his head. Somehow Belina lays an egg while all this is going on. The egg falls out of his head
Mm-hmm.
into the Gnome King's mouth. Surprise, eggs are poisonous.
Yeah.
So that's why chickens weren't allowed.
Yeah. How about chickens can be allowed, just don't eat their eggs? I don't know. Got a friend with an egg allergy. You know what he doesn't do? Eat fucking eggs. What's that,
but
eggs? Nope, can't have that.
First of all, the whole time this is happening, Jack is like yelling, "Mom, Mom!" because,
Yeah.
I mean, rightfully he's scared, but, again, his mom is the 9-year-old. And then when the egg falls into the Gnome King's, like, it falls down his throat, you hear all these whispers like, "Oh, he ate an egg, it's poison, he's eating an egg." And I was like, God be kidding me. So apparently that's the solution to all these stories is, like, we pick a normal everyday object and make it poison to, like, the bad guy. Because water defeated the witch.
Yeah. Okay. Oz is weird.
Well, that's an understatement.
I mean, that's all I can say. I don't know.
Yep. So Dorothy has accidentally solved everything again. I don't know. The people all turn back to normal. They're not statues anymore. They get their heads back.
Yes, they do.
Ozma shows up. Oh, wait, because this whole time Ozma was like the little blonde girl stuck behind glass. We didn't even mention that.
Oh, yeah. In the Princess Mombi's castle, she looks like a ghost. Like, literally, like, she's, like, cloudy looking and floats around.
Yes.
And Dorothy leaves, escapes, and at one point, the princess and the other princess, I guess, are kind of talking to each other. She's like, "Ha, you're trapped here forever," blah, blah, blah. Whatever. So that's the thing. We realize that the little girl is Ozma, and she's, I guess, the rightful heir to the throne
To
of Oz,
Oz?
because her grandfather was... Doesn't matter.
Someone
but yeah,
in her lineage was king before the
Yeah.
wizard came by or something.
Yeah. Like, maybe Scarecrow was just temporary till the one princess is not 9.
I don't know. Well, maybe
Anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point. See, this is what I mean. What's all this with Scarecrow being His Majesty Scarecrow?
I don't know.
I know.
Well, maybe because he was... Oh, maybe he was temporarily the ruler because Ozma was imprisoned.
Yeah, that's...
And then Dorothy helped free her via mirror. They did like the scary Poltergeist 3 thing where she puts her hands in the mirror and the other ones like come through and lock in, and then she like pulls her out of the mirror. And now they have a parade in Oz and they're happy.
Well, there's this ending. There's this ending scene where, they're like celebrating Dorothy, and this is also in the middle of the ceremony when she's like, "Oh, there's a girl in the mirror," and she pulls Ozma out of the mirror. And Jack Pumpkinhead is like, "Oh my God, that's my real mom," and he like faints.
Yeah.
Which is so... I mean, okay, it's ridiculous anyway, but it looks ridiculous because he's so, like, top-heavy and, like, gangly. Like, he's just...
Yeah.
His whole body is, like, skinny with really long limbs. And he's just like, Mom! Like, I can't handle the fact that, like, he's physically bigger than everyone and calling these little girls Mom.
Is it the fact that he's tall? Because...
I think that's
Or
part
the fact
of
that they're
it.
9?
I mean... age-wise for the girls, I'm not loving this, but I think it's like everything together. It's
Interesting.
just... I don't know. So anyway, I think we mentioned this, that Ozma, the girl, is the same, like the blonde girl in the doctor's office. Apparently they had to completely reshoot this last scene because Ozma was in a gold lace dress, and they said it was unsuitable during post-production. I don't know why, but they had to
Hmm.
bring everyone back and reshoot it with her wearing like what she's actually wearing in this scene. And then
Okay.
she had also had a growth spurt between that, so she said like her costume was really uncomfortable because it was too small for her now.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. But yeah, Dorothy goes back to Kansas and Auntie M feels bad and they finish their house and that's really it. Oh, they said like the doctor's place burned down.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And she sees the nurse being carted off to jail, it looks like.
I feel like I was very much not asleep, but I feel like I fell asleep for the end of this movie. Like I can't remember because like it all wrapped up in a way where I was like, I okay. It's like literally 60 seconds of an ending, like boom, 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 boom. Oh,
Yep.
all right.
Oh, and Belina stays behind in Oz. She likes it there.
She does like it there, yeah. Probably because she can talk, and also like her children are poison.
Well,
Any bad
not
guy shows up,
to the bad
hey.
guys, yeah. Hmm.
Oh, just to the rock gnome people.
Yes. God damn it. Okay. Okay. Yep. That's it.
Yeah, that is it. Yeah, I mean, much like the original movie that this is not a sequel to, we see characters twice. We mentioned that the nurse is the Mombi. I don't know if we mentioned that the doctor is also the Gnome King.
Mm-hmm.
The little girl with the pumpkin head is the princess, who's the mom to the jack-o'-lantern character. I believe TikTok is the electric machine that are going to shock Dorothy with, because he explains, the doctor's like, oh, look, see, this isn't that scary. See these
Oh, yeah,
things
he
here?
has a
Those are his
face.
eyes. Like, it's...
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where the fucking moose comes from, though.
No, I
Was
don't
it, like, maybe
either.
on one of the office's walls in the sanitarium? I don't know. Also, when it came back, was it just me, or is his skin green now? Like, after he went into the cave, and then she found
Yes.
what? Okay, he was green, yeah?
Yes, I thought that too. Because you know how I thought he was wearing lipstick at one point? I feel like his coloring changed.
Hmm.
Like, more than once. But,
Like
okay.
a moose of a different color?
Uh, okay. So, I have a quote from Walter Murch. These themes of memory erasure and trying to hold on to the memories that you have run throughout the book, and we emphasize those in the film. All of the characters Dorothy encounters are under the gun in some way. Belina's life will be in jeopardy if she doesn't lay an egg. Jack worries about his head spoiling, and if TikTok isn't regularly wound up, his speech, action, and even his capacity to think can all wind down. The Gump is held together with twine and in constant danger of coming apart. I feel like reading that, it's like, yes, this makes sense. I think I was too taken out of whatever story they were really trying to weave here because of all the batshit stuff happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But, like, is it, though? I mean, it is. But is it, like, too far-fetched? Because, like, again, this is, in my opinion, like, Oz, what's fun about it is, like, it's an imagination world. And anything can happen. And I think that's the whole point of these books. And when you're a little kid, it makes more sense to you because you have these other worlds in your head anyways. Like, you know, you're playing with your figures or your dolls or whatever, and, like, you're imagining other things. And, you know, as your childlike wonderment is much more intact than at 40, I guess.
Yeah. That's fair. All right. I had read some stuff about Disney kind of getting cold feet about releasing it and thinking it was going to do well, like rightfully so, I guess. It sounded like it was originally supposed to be released at Christmas time, and obviously, you know, it was released in the summer. It grossed 11 million in the US on a $28 million budget.
Ooh.
Yes. Critics were mixed. They did say that the special effects were impressive. It was very faithful to the books. liked the visual style, but everyone was like, what is this terrifying children's movie, basically?
Hmm.
The New York Times. Children are sure to be startled by its bleakness. Film critic by the name of Jay Scott, who was in Canadian papers. Dorothy's friends are as weird as her enemies, which is faithful to the original Oz books, but turns out not to be a virtue on film, where the eerie has a tendency to remain eerie no matter how often we're told it's not. This woman was a critic for the Daytona Beach Sunday News Journal. A horror show flying under the banner of family entertainment.
I don't see how too far different it is from the original movie as far as like friends being eerie, like the bad guys and stuff like that. Again, like it's like the books, and no, I haven't read all the books, and I didn't read the first book until I was much older. After I think I was in college. Just I think Wicked had just become popular because it was now a musical, so I wanted to read that book, and I wanted to read the original first, just to kind of, I don't know, get my headspace there and kind of see where it all came from. And yeah, the book is weird. It's, I mean, it's like Alice in Wonderland. Like, it shit doesn't have to make sense. And I don't, the only one I find creepy, as far as her friends go, is the fucking bump. Because it's like a moose head was on I'm assuming a regular looking moose, who knows, but like tied together a makeshift thing that she sprinkled baby powder on, and now it's alive, and that was just weird to me.
Oh,
like,
sure. Why the pumpkin head?
I don't know. He's in the books, though.
Okay. All right, whatever. It was nominated for an Oscar for Best Visual Effects, but it lost to Cocoon.
Damn.
Yep. Just pointed that out because you had Cocoon as, I think, the top movie currently at this point in time. It seemed like every time it was released on home video, it would go out of print shortly after. And I'm talking about like original VHS, DVD, Blu-ray. I read this little statistic that the initial VHS release in December 1985 retailed for $79.95.
What?
I then went down a rabbit hole where apparently this was apparently a normal price for VHS in 85, 86.
Okay.
I was very confused, obviously, when I first read that, because I'm like, well, maybe it didn't do well because it was like $80. Part of this was because people weren't so much buying VHS for personal use. It was more like the stores would buy them to then rent out. They could eat that cost. But also studios were really frustrated about the idea that people would be owning these movies and not going to the movie theaters, and lose the studios thought they would lose revenue because they would, re-release movies in theaters and people would go see them because that's how you revisited your favorite movies. The average ticket cost was $3.71 at this time. So the average VHS was priced to cover about 24 tickets.
Damn.
Yeah. I found various Reddit threads and things where people were talking about how much VHS used to cost, like back in the day. Some people said they remembered that $80 was a normal price and that Disney movies were more like $100 or $120. I know.
I'm floored because now I don't remember how many tapes I had in 1985. Mm-hmm. I do remember via story that I watched 1939 version a lot. We had it on tape. Also remember growing up having a lot of Disney on VHS in those like bubbly plastic containers.
The clamshell ones, yeah.
We were not a wealthy family. These prices, they have dropped before we started collecting movies because there's no way we had so many Disney movies at $120 a pop.
Oh,
no
for
way.
Sure.
I can't believe that.
You've set up the rest of my research perfectly, so thank you. I found a video from Cracked, from their YouTube channel, called How the Top Gun VHS Changed the World. Basically, Paramount made a multi-million-dollar deal with Pepsi. Top Gun had a Pepsi commercial in front of it. I think it was maybe Diet Pepsi specifically. And in exchange for this money from Pepsi, they charged $26.95 for the tape. And you just had to fast forward a commercial at the beginning, and then it was a reasonable price. Pepsi actually approached Steven Spielberg after seeing how well the Top Gun VHS was selling, because it was like far and away the best-selling VHS at the time. I think they really didn't think they were going to make back that much money, but so many people bought it because of the lower price that they were making more money than the people that had the expensive VHSs.
Of course.
So, of course, Pepsi approached Steven Spielberg to convince him to release E.T. on VHS, and they would do a commercial in front of it. Same kind of idea. Spielberg was not interested in releasing E.T. for home video at all. They were just going to keep re-releasing it in theaters every few years. And it's just so funny to me that this was our lifetime.
Yeah.
by just a little bit. But to think that 40 years ago, which is not really that long, that the idea of owning media, or at least owning films, was so out there. Or being able to just watch them at home. Because, I mean, we have streaming now. We're not necessarily owning it if we stream it, but we could still watch a movie at home. But yeah, they made a similar deal with him, and E.T. was released for like $24, $25. Okay, so going back to Disney. Remember how Disney always had the vault?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Never seen those commercials. This year from the vault, Fantasia, or whatever the fuck it was, yeah.
Yes.
But they would always, they would make a big deal, and then it was locked away forever, and then, 10 years later, it's come back out.
I worked at an FYE, which, if anyone is not familiar, it was a movie and music store. I worked there when I was like 18, 19, 20. We constantly would have people coming in looking for Disney movies, and we were still selling VHS at this point. They were getting phased out, but we still had them. And a lot of times it was older people looking for Disney movies, and they did not understand the concept of the vault, which, I completely understand. Why would they? We had to explain to them how Disney only releases movies for a little bit of time, and you don't know what's going to be out when, and maybe go talk to the Disney store and see if they know anything. And it was always a whole thing. So apparently Disney eventually had something called the Disney Movie Club. So in 2015, a 30th anniversary Blu-ray of Return to Oz was released, but only through the Disney Movie Club. So I guess if you were a member, you could buy it. And then there was kind of nothing else in terms of home video. And like I said, every time it was released on VHS or DVD, it would go out of print like a few months later. And I think it might have been the Disney Vault thing, but they would never re-release it.
Either it was a Disney Vault thing, or for some reason it was super popular every time it got released. Everyone's like, oh yeah, remember that crazy movie from the 80s about Dorothy? I want to buy that so bad.
I know. Now, of course, you can stream it on Disney Plus. It is in there from the Vault section, or at least it was when Disney Plus first came on the scene. And it's funny now because I remember Disney Plus coming out because it wasn't that long ago. It was also during the pandemic, and I'm pretty sure we got a free year of Disney Plus like through Verizon. And we were like, well, what else do we have to do? We can just introduce our kid to all these Disney movies, I guess, while we sit at home, right? So I remember that being such a selling point, though, that they would have all the movies from the vault, and you wouldn't have to wait for these movies to come out of the vault anymore.
Yeah, that was definitely a thing.
I found a documentary that came out last year, I think. It is called Remembering Return to Oz. They specifically released it last year to coincide with the 40th anniversary. It looks like they interviewed Fairuza Balk and the actress who played Ozma, and maybe some other people who worked on the film. The weird thing is that when I first discovered this, I was reading like an article looking back on it, I think on the BBC, and then they linked to this documentary saying it was coming out for the 40th anniversary. I clicked the link and it takes you to like a YouTube trailer for the documentary. It had a weird channel name like Family Fun Video or something
Something
like
like
that.
that. Yeah.
So in the description for the video, it says it's going to be released on Amazon in 2025. I looked. It is not on Amazon. It has its own website. I believe it's rememberingreturntoz.com, and you can buy it for $12.99.
Okay.
I wasn't going to do that, so
It's better than $79.99.
yeah. But maybe a future bonus episode. We'll watch Remembering Return to Oz.
I am intrigued because I also looked at this trailer because you told me to. And the one part that was kind of intriguing was there's a brief part they're talking about the darkness of this movie. Mm-hmm. And then they kind of name drop some other movies from that era. Neverending Story. They mentioned Disney's Black Cauldron, Watcher in the Woods.
Yeah.
I think Something That Wicked This Way Comes was like, maybe this movie and movies like it are the reason why I like horror movies so much. Like, I just didn't think
because you
these
came
were
of
that
age.
scary.
There you go.
These are nothing. I don't know, but I'm curious about that because there's other movies like that from that era, even like animated movies such as Secret of Nim. I remember had some really crazy animation that I wouldn't say I was afraid of the movie, but like you knew the bad guys were like, ooh, they're drawn scarily. This is like kind of creepy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there was a whole chunk of time where they were doing not so polished, cute and cuddly movies for kids.
Yes. It is funny you mention that because, you know, I saw some of the scenes from those movies that they included in this trailer as kind of a setup to, I don't know, the direction Disney was going when they released Return to Oz. And, you know, they were showing scenes from these and I was the only one still awake. It was like 11 o'clock at night and I was like, well, I am spooked now. And I stopped watching it because I was scared.
Oh my God.
Then I finally played the rest of it and I got to experience the amazing song they created to go along with this documentary.
This time period has really great music, huh?
I wouldn't even say it was 80s. It was really just like they decided to sing the description of their documentary.
Oh.
Join
I didn't
us
make it that far.
as we remember Dorothy and all her friends.
Yeah.
Nothing like Lady Hawk.
Nothing could ever top that.
No. Okay. So Walter Murch never directed another movie after this.
I'm sorry. I can't say I didn't see that coming.
But
and I feel bad for laughing for poor Walter. I know he turns out okay.
Yes, he had an amazing career, but what a way to just pop up on the scene, your first and only movie you ever directed, and it's like this. Damn. But yes, he went on to win more Oscars. Specifically for The English Patient in 1996, he did editing and sound, just other big movies he worked on, usually doing editing and sound mixing. The Godfather 3, Ghost, The Talented Mr. Ripley, Jarhead, and Cold Mountain. The author of The English Patient, who co-wrote the screenplay, ended up publishing a book about film editing based on working with Walter on The English Patient and like watching his process. It's funny because I remember The English Patient being a big deal when it came out. I'm pretty sure it won Best Picture that year. I have not read the book. I've seen it once and I remember thinking it was boring, but I was also probably too young to be watching it and like to really appreciate it. But it's funny because this guy wrote The English Patient and then he's like, I'm going to publish a book about film editing.
Right.
And I looked up the book. It's very much like conversations with Walter Murch about, you know, the art of film editing. Just ending on a couple quotes about Walter here. Roger Ebert called him the most respected film editor and sound designer in the modern cinema. And David Thompson, who if you don't know is a really big film historian, he wrote a lot of textbooks that we used in film school. he called Walter Murch the scholar, gentleman, and superb craftsman of modern film, adding that in sound and editing, he is now without a peer.
Hot damn.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a compliment.
I just think it's amazing because he's obviously like top of his game. He's like an expert at his craft. And then also he directed Return to Oz with the Moosehead Gump. Like,
it just goes to show you that everyone's got talents and blind spots, and not everyone can be a Spielberg or Coppola or I guess even a Lucas. And he's great at what he did and continued to be great. And to be fair, this is a crazy script, and never directing before, then having the first producer not paying attention. Like, there's a lot of things going against Mr. Walter over here, but yeah, maybe he just chose not to direct. I mean, I don't think he had a lot of people probably asking him to also. I don't know. But he did very well for himself after the fact. I wouldn't say this is a blemish on his career, but a fun asterisk.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I also feel like a lot of the things that I'm so confused by regarding this movie are more like L. Frank Baum's fault, not really Walter Murch's fault.
Yeah, they chose to stick more to the books, and it also goes to show you that not everything. When people complain, "Oh, this the book's better. This is not as good as the book because they change things."
Yeah,
this is why we change things.
This is why you really have to sometimes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've watched a couple movies recently that were adaptations of books, and both of them really streamlined the story, because you can't just have all these side stories all the time when you're turning a book into you can get away with more in a book, is how I always feel. And I do think with this, some of it is that, like one of those critics said, just seeing some of these characters visually and like moving around, it's like it never stops being like unsettling. At least for me.
I got used to it. It was
okay.
I don't know. I wouldn't call it nightmare fuel, but I also would. I guess it depends on the kid. Weird. It was definitely weird.
I forgot to tell you the best part about that one critic that said it was a horror show. She left the movie when Dorothy's about to be electrocuted, and she took her kids with her, so she didn't even see the rest of it. That was like too much for her.
Yeah, that's probably the worst part for me. We're gonna do what to this kid? No, what?
Fair, yeah. For me, it's always creepy visuals always win out for me over anything else. So yeah, we're kind of already talking about whether it held up or not. I mean, did it ever?
Always sold out when it was released from the vault.
Shut up. No, it went out of print. That's different.
Oh, yeah, my bad. Sorry.
Here's the thing, though. I wouldn't even say that this is a bad movie. It's just, I can't believe it exists. I'm so glad I've seen it and experienced it. I don't need to watch it again. But it's one of those movies where I totally would put it on if, like, I was with someone that had never seen it. Like, you have to experience this.
Yeah. To answer the question, did it hold up, is tricky. I feel like I always try to not say no. Not intentionally, just like, I don't know, some of these movies are some of our favorite films growing up, and you want to defend them.
Well, this is not that.
Yeah, well, no, it is not. So, like, did it hold up? I would have to say no, because even though I know I watched it, I don't remember most of this movie. So, in that aspect, I would say no. But to piggyback, I would say I don't think it was a bad movie. It is very weird, and as we mentioned, it comes from a time where kids' movies kind of want darker, which I don't mind. I don't need everything cute and cuddly all the time.
Right.
But yeah, if you haven't watched it, watch it once, maybe.
That would be
maybe
my
you don't have to be stone sober either. Maybe it's more fun that way. I don't know.
Oh, I was just about to say that too, especially if you're maybe not sober.
That might be worse, actually, because then you might have nightmare fuel.
God.
What the fuck was that?
Oh, man. Yeah, I feel like more than anything else we have ever discussed, this was really an experience.
Yeah. An aside, I've been noting when we talk about a movie that is based off a book that I have not read, and I put it on a list because I make lists. And I did read Jurassic Park, and I audiobooked Emma just because we talked about Jurassic Park and Clueless. I'm now going to have to put these two books on my list, and oof, I don't know if I'm going to start going down a rabbit hole. And if I've read 3 now, do I just keep reading more? Like, do I do all 14?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
I'm very much one of those people that, like, even if it's not my favorite, like, I have to complete it.
Yeah.
So
Like,
I get that. Well, maybe we'll start a book club and we'll let you all know.
After our history podcast?
After our history podcast. I explained the history of VHS today. At least it wasn't like European royalty.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I thought this was going to be a weird season just because it's the 80s. It has not disappointed so far.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right. Well, we would love to hear your thoughts on Return to Oz, as well as your own favorite films from 1985. You can find us on Instagram at Back Through the Lens Pod and on Facebook at Back Through the Lens. You can also email us at backthroughthelenspodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating and review. It's the best way to support our show.
If you enjoyed our show today, please give us a like and follow for updates on new and future episodes. Our show is produced by our hosts, Rachel Campbell, and myself, Joe Sielmick, with additional help and support from Peter Telp of LPV Productions. Peter, Rachel, and I are also the executive producers. Our awesome logo is brought to you by Tom Faraci, and our wonderful theme song is by Matt Tarek. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more trips into our movie-watching past on Back Through the Lens. With the help of her now talking chicken, Belina, goddamn Joe. What's a stupid fucking name? I want to say Belinda because I'm thinking of Glinda. With the help of her now talking chicken, Belinda. Oh my god, Joe. Belina.
Are you phonetically saying
Yes.
it?
God damn it.
Walter Murch had this childhood Walter Murch had this childhood. Oh my god.
What are you, me? Ha!
Yeah, I know.